Hello and welcome to everyone listening to the Written Melanin Podcast, the place where you come to get your weekly dose of melanated creativity. I'm your host, Sam Lockhart, an author of fantasy books featuring Black girls who aren't all that nice, and the owner of the Melanin Library, an online database of books written by Black authors. And in this space, I invite you to listen to the journeys of Black authors with the hope that you'll gain something from it. I am so glad that you are here. And today, you guys, I am here with Clare Brown. She has been chronically online since 2009 when she had one of the first viral fashion blogs called Clarabelle. She pivoted to short form videos in 2020, and her work has been featured in the New York Times, Vice, People, and numerous local news stations across the country. She has amassed over 600,000 followers across Instagram and TikTok with her satirical takes on the not so micro impact of microaggressions. Claire recently started a popular book review podcast called One More Chapter with a fellow TikToker and narrated the premiere episode of the Honest History podcast. New Nigeria County is her first foray into publishing. And if you guys don't already know, I absolutely loved it. I posted a review for it on the Melanin Library channel. So go look at it, go get it, go listen to it, and then come back to this episode because it's going to be great. So, all that being said, welcome to the podcast, Claire.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. For everyone who's listening, because who is Clare Brown? I've never met her before. Like, how would you introduce yourself to the people?
Oh my goodness. So I'm Claire, not Clara, even though I do understand the confusion because all of my socials are Clarabelle. So people always call me Clara, which is fine. I get it. But I'm actually just Claire. I'm chronically online. But other than that, I'm a pretty, boring regular person. I have a job and family and I, cook dinners,
Crazy.
etc. It's really exciting stuff.
Yeah.
But I love the internet. I love online culture. I love just general sort of buzzy culture. And I feel like so much of it happens online. So, don't take my phone from me, please.
No, that's fair because when I first read your bio and I was looking, I did a little research, did a little digging before the episode, and I saw that you had a fashion blog back in 2009. It's just, oh, you've been here for a while.
Oh, yeah. I'm like no stranger to the internet streets.
And it's just, I think being able to have spent so much time doing things that you enjoy, I feel like that is such like a blessing.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm a recovering theater kid. So the internet helps a lot for me not to like be annoying in real life. I can just be annoying online.
I'm dead. I'm dead. Not a recovering theater kid who just needs to be annoying online. Okay. I'm going to try to keep myself together throughout this episode. I just need y'all to know if when y'all listening, this woman is actually genuinely hilarious in real life. And I'm trying very hard to remain professional and not cackle in y'all's ear this entire episode. But let's talk about New Nigeria County, right? Because that's how our paths crossed.
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know, New Nigeria County is an audiobook, and it is really and truly, in a lot of ways, it's one of a kind. I personally have not heard or listened to anything like it. So how would you describe New Nigeria County for anyone who's never heard of it before?
New Nigeria County is a fictional universe that is everything is upside down, but also exactly the same. So, the roles that you have today are flipped. So in New Nigeria County, Black women are the toxic white men. They have all the best jobs, they have all of the money, they have all of the power. They have these kind of massive friend groups that shield them from like any sort of responsibility or any sort of accountability. Everybody loves their like daughters and daughters, young girls, they're like kind of able to get away with whatever. And then you have European Americans who are kind of at the bottom of the totem pole. Like in New Nigeria County, you don't really even see a white man. Like you will see a white woman because I mean, at least she has the proximity to Black women, but like there's not even a white man in the audiobook. I mean, there's a white boy, but you don't see any like grown man. He's like very somewhere. And so you have these situations in New Nigeria County that happen, in our lives today, but reversed. So you have these Black women with a lot of power and a lot of just lack of nuance making these mistakes and like seeing how those would play out in a world where like white men are largely invisible, kind of what that looks like. But it's also funny, right? I do
It's
not like,
hilarious.
yeah, I mean, I don't like to be lectured to, and I found that like there are people, especially online, who do an incredible job of like talking people through race and gender and social constructs. And like, that's not really my ministry. I'm not really good at that, but I am good at making jokes. So like, I can take, my lived experience, just paying attention to society and kind of make it funny, but also educational.
No, that makes perfect sense because one of the things that I really loved about New Nigeria County is that you took the social hierarchies that all of us are familiar with and you just flipped it. And you did it in such a way where it's just like you're talking about really difficult topics that, let's be real here. If you're a Black woman in America or anywhere in the world, honestly, but specifically in America, you are going to experience some things and you get to a point where you're like tired. It's just I've seen it, I've heard it, I understand this narrative, I know where it's going. And yes, this may be a moment. Yes, there may be outrage, but ultimately there comes a time where people are like, okay, we're done being upset about this. And it's just, but how do we get here? And what I really loved about New Nigeria County is that you took it and you took something that's usually very heavy, usually that's very, I'll say, an important topic, right? And you made it so accessible and you made it so this isn't draining me to listen to this and to point a finger at all these things that we live with that have become so commonplace. But then when you flip it, it's just, wow, you can really see how crazy this all sounds. I've said it before and I'll say it again and I'll say it probably 1,000 times more whenever it comes to this book. New Nigeria County is how I want more. I'm not gonna say all, but how I want almost all of my important books to be from now on. I want it to be presented to me in a way that I still get enjoyment out of it. It's not just, like you said, a lecture on race. And I feel like that's really important because the p this I don't think I can get away I don't think we can have this conversation without me saying this, but I feel like, especially on the internet, because like you said, you're chronically online, so I'm sure you see this, especially when it comes to topics that are related to, like, race and gender inequality and just showing up as you are in spaces, and those spaces not necessarily being 100% welcoming towards that. There is a specific demographic of people where you can talk to them, but the questions that they are asking are not so that they can understand, it's so that they can get you to prove that who you are deserves respect for your humanity, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think so many stories about race and gender, but mostly, honestly, to be honest about race, just re-traumatize Black people, right? Like, I mean, all of them do. It's like, okay, do I need to see 12 Years a Slave? Like, what did that do for me other than just make me really sad? But like, can we talk about these issues in a way that empowers Black people? Like, New Nigeria County is like all about giving Black people power while driving home these issues that we deal with every single day, particularly Black women. Like, it's all about sort of empowering them and, while also raising awareness, right? That was important to me. It was not, I don't want it to be traumatizing, when you listen to it.
And I think that's the important thing, especially for the Black reader, is you can talk about these things without it being traumatizing. But I also love that even if you're not a Black woman, a Black person, you can still listen to the book and get enjoyment out of it. And it's not like, oh, you're only going to enjoy this if you
Mhm.
are this demographic. No. And I love books that can be like, anyone can listen to it and hear it and see the point that's trying to be made, but also have a good time with it. And I feel like that's a very special skill to have that most books don't land on. It's usually like, this will be great for this demographic, but it's going to make everybody else uncomfortable, but you should probably still read it.
Right. Yeah.
So kudos to you for doing something that a lot of people struggle with. But that being what it is, you take us back to the beginning. What started you from this journey of having a fashion blog to going online to doing all these other ventures, right? To, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm really going to write the script for this audiobook and I'm going to make it a reality. Like, how do we get from idea conception to actual tangible book out in the world?
Yeah. So I stopped fashion blogging relatively abruptly when I had my first daughter, because there's a sort of fashion blog to mom blog pipeline, but I wasn't going to do the mom blog part. I have very strong feelings about using your children for content.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not for me. Like, I get it. There's people who do it fine. Their kids are adorable. That was not going to be my route. So I just stopped blogging, like very cold turkey. And then I started making just general comedy videos on Instagram, like when Reels started becoming a thing. And then I ignored TikTok. I was like, I'm too old for TikTok. Like, oh, I don't really dance. Like,
I love how
that would be
everyone ignores TikTok in the beginning.
everybody. Yeah. Cause I was like, I'm not 15 and I'm not going to dance. Sorry.
Real.
Let's
That's
just
real.
like, no, like it would be humiliating for me and for everyone who had to watch that. So I was just like, whatever, I can do these videos on Instagram. They did really well. They were just about nothing. And then George Floyd's death happened. And that was like, I think, a big shift in a lot of people's general everything.
Yeah.
Um, and one thing I noticed that was astonishing to me was that so many white people discovered that same day that racism still existed in this country. And I
Crazy.
was like, "Oh, what? What's happening?" Like, there were so many, particularly Black women, like talking about sharing their truth, like, talking about discrimination in the workplace, talking about discrimination going to the grocery store, or being in the park. And all of these white people were like, "What? Oh my gosh, that's crazy! I cannot believe it. I'm astonished." And I was like, "How did we get here?" And I think it's because what we were just talking about, and that is the majority of popular stories that center race are set in the 1950s. They're very literal, like whites only. You can't sit with us. Clean cut racism, right? It's like, you cannot be here. And then in the end, some white man kind of swoops in, saves the Black people. It's all
Mhm.
tied up in the bow. The racism has been solved and we have all moved on. Also, this happened in 1950. So, like, it's over. It's
It's
done.
over.
So I was like, this is absurd. And so then I was like, what would happen? And I think a lot of the reasons why so many racial conversations don't work for white people is because they're not centered. It's not about them. They're like, this is about someone else,
Word.
right? So it's like, okay, sorry for your troubles. Let's all move on. Also, does this even happen? So I was like, what if we made white people the center of the racial struggles and showed how much our language, like everything from like naming everything new slash someplace in Europe, like New York, New Jersey, New Hampshire, like those are all, you know, places in England,
Yeah.
down to like the word freshman. Like, why am I a woman, a freshman? Like, I'm a fresh woman. Or, like, how do we talk about this so that we can like dissect some of the things that we just totally normalize that marginalize women, particularly Black women and Black people as a whole? So I started this series that it's called like, What If European Americans? Because that's also not a thing. You have
Mhm.
African American, you have Asian American, you have randomly Native American, which anyone should just be American, it's them. Um, but then white people just get to be either just American or white. So it's like, okay, well, no, they have to be European American. And I was like, what if European Americans experienced microaggressions? So I started this video series where I like microaggressed white people. Oh my gosh, how did you get your hair so yellow? Like, why is it so flat? Like, it's so exotic. Like, and those really resonated. And then they like went viral immediately. And someone was like, you should post this on TikTok. And I was like, I didn't know I could post a video like this on TikTok. I thought I had to do a dance video. It's a friend of mine. You should follow it. His name is Aaron Goldenberg. He has a series called The Mean Gays. They're on tour right now. It is so good. You should follow him. But he was like, no, you should post this on TikTok. Like you can do that. So it's like, okay, I'll do it. And then like the TikTok explosion became like much bigger than I ever could have imagined. And so I, the way that it resonated, the way that people like weren't mad, right? A lot of people were like, do people get mad about your videos? And I'm like, no, people don't. Like, in fact, people were like, oh, this is the first time I'm like actually kind of understanding racism, and which is frustrating because it's like, okay, but we've been saying this for 400 years, but like, okay, thanks, Nance.
But I think what you did is you centered them in a way that they had never been centered before. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. So that's, and so people were like, oh, like, I get it. Like, and there was no room to be mad. It was just like, I think a lot of people were like, oh, shoot, like I say these things, I think this way, I do this, and I get that I'm part of the problem. So then that's kind of how New Nigeria County was born. So I like built out this whole world. It was sort of this like recurring thing. There was characters, like Jasmine is in it, but it was always just me with a green screen, sort of talking to myself. So this went on for a year or two. And then that's kind of when Simon and Schuster reached out and they were like, well, would you want to turn this world into like something bigger? Like, would you want to do like a full kind of, it would be an audio only, like full cast book. And I was like, yes, I would. I would like to do that. And then they were like, cool. And then I didn't hear from them for like months. And I was like, well, that's cool. That's fine. But I was just, and that's how I was introduced to my editor. And then I started the writing process. And that process was very humbling because I'm used to writing 45-second TikToks. So like, that's kind of how I approached episode 1. It was like joke, boom, boom, boom. Like, just very like, let's get right to it. Sent it off. I was like, this is the greatest episode anybody has ever been bared witness to. And then I get it back from my editor and it is like full red. And she's like, ma'am, you need to like write a story. Like it doesn't need to be like this like series of jokes. So I learned a ton about expanding the universe in a way that's like a linear story, like giving people other than just myself, like fully fleshed out characters. So I ended up having a ton of fun with it and, learning a lot. But I think honestly, like the writing is good, but the cast understood the assignment in a way that was beyond my wildest dreams. They were just talented. I didn't get to meet the majority of them because we recorded it kind of all separately. I got to listen to it when everybody else did. Like, yeah, they're like, oh, here it is. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh, these people, they're like so talented. My God. That I think really helped was the cast. They just like got it. They understood exactly what I was trying to do and ran with it.
And I love that because listening to it, I was just like, oh, these are very like their personalities and the way that it was written and the way that it was acted is you could very clearly hear that no, these are fully fleshed out people with their own lives, especially the sister-in-law's girl. Calm down.
Oh,
It's gonna be fine. But also, I'm so glad it's not happening to me. Like,
oh, I know. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. But like, oh, sorry for it.
Hate that for you. Glad it's not me, but that sucks. Wow.
Yeah, we loved Tanisha.
It was so great. And I think that is part of what made me enjoy it so much to the point where I had to grab my husband because, like, literally the first 10 minutes, when I heard European American, I was like, no, let me stop. Let me go and grab my husband because he appreciates things like that too. So we just sat in the car in our garage and we just played it and listened to it. And we were both cracking up. And what I loved about it is even between us, and we have very similar viewpoints because we've been together a long time. But
Yeah.
also, it was one of those things where it's just I could see this very easily opening up so many conversations and dialogues that really, truly, genuinely need to happen just in general. And it does it in such a way that's fun and comforting. And it's just, yeah, we can laugh about it together, but let's also talk about it together. Let's actually look at the thing that's being discussed here. And that was one thought, right? But when you were talking about your journey, I was like, I'm so glad that you mentioned that Simon and Schuster reached out to you because
Yeah.
I feel like as creatives, right? Anybody who has aspirations or ambitions or does anything on the internet, right? Especially as authors, because I have an author podcast. Like most of the people who listen are authors or aspiring,
Seriously?
right?
Yes.
I think everybody has that dream of the publisher. The dream publisher reaches out to them and they're like, hey, we want to work with you. But then you were like, then they disappeared for a couple of months.
Oh,
And it's
yeah,
just,
they was like, "Oh, well, that's fine." Cries.
and I feel like that's important to mention too, because it's like it's also part of the process. Like nothing in publishing happens immediately. Like even fully successful audiobook, right? It still was just like, okay, we have this idea, we're going to touch base with you. And you're like, yeah, I'm on board. They leave. I'm sure they were getting things together so they could come back to you and be like, okay, this is how we're going to move forward. But I feel like sometimes we're like, are you not going to keep me in the loop in this whole process? Just say hi. Let me know that you have not forgotten about me.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, like, I am a big proponent okay, one of my just big pet peeves is when people do stuff like this and don't talk about the messy middle and don't talk about the element of luck and the element of certain things being totally outside of your control. Like, I'm really open about the fact that, like, yes, Simon& and Schuster reached out to me, and then it was, like, sort of this chaotic wait until something actually happened, but, like, I also, like I don't think what happened to my channel could have been replicated without the pandemic and without the timing of when I started. Like, again, there was just sort of these things that happened that were lucky, and it didn't matter how good the content was. I don't think it would be replicated if I woke up today and was like, "I'm gonna do this."
Thank you for saying that
Yeah.
because I know that so much of any creative pathway, right? If you don't want a 9 to 5, if you want to be an entrepreneur, so much of the advice on the internet and what people tell you in general is you just start, do it today and go for it and it'll all work out. And it's just, yes, absolutely believe that. But also understand that a lot of the times the people that you're looking to who are wildly successful, or you're just like, how did you do that? You also have to keep in mind that to a certain extent, it is timing. It is when they started. It is the things that led up to these situations and being prepared for opportunities because it's just like you have this idea. And like you said, your series is based off of the things that you've experienced in real life. And you said, if you start today, it wouldn't be the same. And it's just those experiences are still yours. And even if you did start, it's just, okay, we're in 2024 now. The big unfortunate like Black Lives Matter movement. I only call it unfortunate because it was so temporary.
Mhm.
And
Oh, yeah.
that is the part that as a Black American that just hurts. It's
Mhm.
infuriating and it hurts because it's just like our lives, our existence are not a moment and a movement and just a temporary time. However, that's a whole other conversation for another day. If you've been on the podcast, you know how I feel about it. But at the same time, it's just like to the point, it's like things have to align, and sometimes you have to take with a grain of salt that, like, luck and opportunity and everything else is just like, you were ready when Simon& and Schuster reached out to you. You had the platform, you'd been established, you're like, "I have this thing, this is my lane, my brand, I know how to move in this, I know how to function in this, I know where I can expand it to, I know where I'm not going to take it," etcetera. Like, you knew your brand, essentially, and I feel like sometimes for creatives, it's hard to conceptualize that, especially an author who wants to write books, right? It's like sometimes you have to know where your lane is and you have to live in it and also understand that the people who are giving you advice, sometimes I'm thinking about like YouTube creators, sometimes they were just on YouTube from the very beginning. The people who are super crazy popular on TikTok, they were there from the beginning. They had more time, the algorithm changed. And I said this privately in my Patreon writing sprints the other night, right? But I was just like, people have to get comfortable with understanding that I had it and it was brilliant. Oh, this is gonna be mad. This is gonna mess up the soundbite. No, my brain literally just blanked on me. This is what I get for not eating before doing the podcast. Prepared. It was brilliant, and I'm mad that I forgot it. Don't worry about it, Claire. This is me. This is all on me.
No, but I mean, but what you're saying is right though about being there from the beginning, because like Simon and Schuster reached out in like 2022. I've been online since 2009, right? And this was like
Yeah.
kind of my first, like I've definitely done brand deals. I've definitely done partnerships. I mean, my fashion blog was the reason why I could live in New York at
Mhm.
20. We get 20 and eat.
Mhm.
But I didn't have like a line in Nordstrom like a lot of my peers did that were fashion blogging at the same time. Like I was not like having the level of success that a lot of other fashion bloggers in my cohort had. And it really wasn't until I like pivoted, then this is like decades later that these opportunities came. So I again, this is why I kind of get annoyed when people like talk about their journey as if they had full control over it, and B, that it happened quickly. Right.
That's what I was going to say. That doing something when you have a large following already is completely different than trying to start doing something from the very beginning. That those are two different things. That's what I was trying to say. That being said, I completely derailed our conversation, but I want to say that I appreciate you for sharing the messy middle, because that is the part that I think we live in the longest. And it's very easy to see, oh, I saw where you were at in the before times, and I see where you're at in the after times, super successful. But no one wants to pay attention to there are literal years, or in your case, decades, between when you started to this moment where you're experiencing this kind of success. And
Yes.
I think about that in every medium, right? Again, YouTubers, most of the big ones, they've been on YouTube for years, decades, right?
Yes.
Musicians, like even Beyonce, right?
She's been around for forever. I mean, lots of people don't even remember Destiny's Child.
Right. And this, even before Destiny's Child, you also have to remember that she was like doing pageants and singing and stuff. It didn't start with Destiny's Child, even.
It didn't, yeah.
So it's just, you can look at where she's at now, but you also have to appreciate the journey for getting there and the things that she can do now. And I am pulling this back around to creatives, because it's just, I feel like sometimes we also look at creatives who can do what they want and have a little pushback and have a little power within their industries. And it's like, they can do that because there are times in the beginning where they didn't have it and they had to play by the rules and they had to do what was expected. So I don't know how much creative power you had with New Nigeria County working with Simon and Schuster, right? But I'm thinking that when you have your own platform that's already wildly successful and you're like, like you said, I already have the brand deals. Like, I'm good. I don't need you to come in and do this for me in order to give me a space and a platform to do what I'm already doing. I feel like that gives you a little bit more leeway, a little more power, a little more pushback than if you were like, hi, I'm approaching you with this idea and I would like to work with you to make this happen. Are you on board? I feel like that's a completely different power dynamic. So I guess very long-winded way to pull that back around to what was that experience like working for Simon Schuster? Because I know you said you had your editor and you had a lot of read and it was a great learning experience, right?
Yeah.
So
So I mean, you're correct that I had a lot of creative power, but I did heavily lean on my editor to kind of be a little ruthless with me, because what works on social, like in a short form content medium, does not work in a book, even if it's in an audio or like an audio kind of show. This is kind of like, it's almost like listening to a television show, but
no, it really
um
is.
right. So like while I had the narrative freedom, because everything was, I mean, already existed, right? A lot of the big plot points already were very fleshed out, like through years of videos, right? So it wouldn't make sense for me to like change Nat Turner High School. Like Nat Turner High School is Nat Turner High School. It's always been Nat Turner High School. We did change. The only thing we changed like is on my TikTok, the principal's a woman because I'm a woman. And in the book, he is a man. But but I needed my editor to be this, like this won't resonate as well with like a listening audience. And I also just needed her to like push me to like sit down and like flesh out my characters. Like, who is Tanisha? Like, what does she like? What does she not like? Where does she live? Like, just so that when you're writing them, they like are dynamic and like you can visualize them, because I'm so used to writing for myself and playing all of these different people. But it was nice to have that the narrative freedom. I did not really have much to do, like I said, with the editing and like kind of what it sounded like, which again though was fine because I don't know anything about that, right? It's like,
No, that's
please
real.
make it sound good, right? I mean, I didn't even want to be part of that. I would just be in the way and say things that don't make sense. I mean, like I can do the story, but there was it was a team effort. Like I desperately needed my editor, and I told her that from the beginning. Like I'm not precious about this, but I am precious about it resonating. So you need to do what you need to do with the editing process. Like you need to be like, this is trash and this isn't, right? Like,
No, that's real. That's
right?
real.
And
It's
then with the sound, I'm like, that is your lane. Like, don't just like, pardon my language, but just like don't fuck it up. But they
yeah.
didn't because they know what they're doing. So I think like the team effort is so important.
Absolutely. And again, there's so many good nuggets here because there's so many things where I'm just like, y'all hear what she's saying? She said that this is her lane. This is what she does. And I'm not going to step into your lane. I'm going to pass the baton and trust you to handle it. And also getting an editor who is going to be like, fix it.
Right. And like you don't need to be precious about it. Like obviously this is my baby and I'm sad. I'm going to look at those red lines and I'm going to have a moment. I'm going to be sad. And I'm going to be like, "Okay." But then I know it's going to be better on the other side, right? And I think that's too like the power of a good editor, is not just be like, this is fine if it's not. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a huge difference between a hype man and an editor, and I will die on that hill. And when I say editor, I'm going to expand that term to mean anyone who reads your work critically and tells you how to improve it, where to improve it, and it's going to be on you until they're like, yes, this is what it needed to be. This is the peak. This is where we were trying to get to the entire time. Having
Yeah.
someone who can be honest with you and you trust their judgment is like paramount to writing a good story in any medium, any format.
That's
So,
so true. Yes.
but you mentioned that Simon Schuster reached out to you for an audiobook. So I was going to ask if there was ever going to be a physical book to accompany, but I think you answered that.
So for the New Nigeria County, no. I mean, it's written very much for to be said. If you were to look at it, it's a script.
Mhm.
Like it could maybe be sold to TV, but it has no narrative. There's and like I did make a choice. Like there's some audiobooks where they do have a narrator who's like, she walked down the street, da, 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 da. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. Like, let's just do the story. Yeah, it's an episode. And so I did I would write in sound effects, like, opening and closing cabinets, like to kind of set the tone. But it's very much written to be listened to. But the hope is to continue to write a physical book still based in New Nigeria County, but with a different issue. And actually do more with like men and how they like moved in this world. A Black man again, not be a European American, because I don't know, what are they doing? I have no idea. Are they all in jail? Like I don't know. So yeah, that is the hope.
Yeah. I'm here for it. I'm excited for it personally. It's just if you're listening to this on the podcast, for this moment, I need you to go look at the YouTube video because the way she did her hair, I don't know. Are they all in jail? I can't help you.
No, I mean, like, after I read, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing.
I love it. I love it so much. So, that being what it is, I guess, for assuming that there's anyone who picks up your book now or in the future, and you could be like, okay, I can have this book leave one serious, lasting impression on this reader. What would that be?
Okay, so my biggest thing with this book, everything aside, was that Karen, my protagonist, I wanted her, the story is circular, right?
Mhm.
She starts and ends in the exact same place, right? So when the book ends, she could go to sleep, wake up, and the story could start again, right? And then it would be start and end exactly the same, because that to me is the most damaging part of the racial relations that we have right now, is that you have these moments where something horrible happens. There's this sort of influx of horror. We have to do something about this. This is terrible. And then by the end, nothing happens, right? Like
Mhm.
nothing changes. And I think you can get distracted by the comedy of it to not like see kind of how tragic the ending is, that like, you know, you are at the exact same place that you started, by the time you get to the end of the episode. So, like, I think that is what I want people to take from it. And it's funny, like, so, the book has done really well, but my most criticism has been about the ending, right? And I think it's because, like, it's a heavy ending, right? Because
Mhm.
I mean, there's no other way to end it. It would be disingenuous if I made it happy, like Hidden Figures or like that.
I loved the ending because it's just one of those things where I'm not gonna ruin it for anyone who hasn't listened to it. But I will say that the ending, at least from my perspective, from an author perspective, I understood what you were trying to do. And it's just like, if you understand all the things that you're pointing out, that the social hierarchies are flipped, and you understand this journey, and she's not actually growing throughout this journey. She's just trying to save face, right? She's trying to save her reputation. This is not meaningful in her life in the same way that it's meaningful on the other side, right? Where this is life, I don't say life or death, but this is determining their entire future in so many ways, right? Whereas for Corinne, this is a speed bump, not even.
Right, this is an inconvenience that I need to get over. I will. It's just a matter of when, and then I
And,
can
and then you
move
get
on.
to the end, and it is confirmed that this was, in fact, an inconvenience, and her life will go on. And I
Yeah.
feel like that has a very powerful message in and of itself, because if you listen to the whole book and you really pay attention to all the things that you're pointing out about how this works, and like you said, the outrage, and then it just fades away. It's what we've mentioned throughout this entire podcast episode of like how 2020 unfortunately was just a moment for so many people. It wasn't a change. It wasn't, and even so many of the changes that were implemented by companies 2024, they're being rolled back because they're like, okay, we did it, we tried, and it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. And this requires far more work and accountability than what we are really here for. So we're just going to be like, we did. And it's not in 2020 when they started, the big announcements everywhere, headlines. Now that it's
Huge.
2024 and we're going back to the status quo, it's very quiet. If you have people who know, then you may have the tea. But for the most part, we're not really talking about this anymore. And because so many people were not bearing witness to the changes as positive things, they're just finally, we're getting back to yada, 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 which again, that's a whole rant. But I think what you did with the end of the book is it shows the frustration that comes with it, but what it looks like from the other side, where it's just, okay, we're going back to sleep, we're going back to our normal lives. But at the end of the day, somebody else's life is completely changed, disrupted, never going to be the same. And the world keeps spinning, and I think it was a very powerful ending. Personally, appreciate the fact that you wrote it the way that you did instead of making it like this super happy ending or even having accountability at the end. I thought there wasn't even really much of that for Corinne because I feel like you this is what it is. This is the conversations. This is the part of the uncomfortable conversations that as a culture, society that we really need to have, how there is so much lack of accountability and how there is so much with Tanisha, like you said, so many people just don't care unless they are directly centered in it. And I feel like that's also another conversation that we need to have. But yes, yeah.
Great.
All that said, y'all need to go listen to this book. You need to go listen to it. It's amazing.
You'll like it. It's easy. It's an easy, fun listen. It really is. Yeah.
It is, and it's not super long. So even if you're not like, I'm not an audiobook girly person, I promise you, you can put it on and cook dinner and by the time you finish dinner.
Yeah, if you have like a holiday road trip, you can put it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like kids can listen to it. I feel like there's nothing there's no bad language.
I mean, unless you don't want a fully informed child, then that's choice. But yeah, it's a very family friendly book. I would definitely listen to this with any one of my family members. And I think don't put it on if you don't want to talk to anybody, though. I would say that.
Yeah.
But that being said, Claire, I do have a couple more questions for you. The first one being, what writing advice would you give to any new authors starting out on their writing journey? And I know for you, it's a little different because you write like scripts and TikToks, but still, advice.
That's a really good question. I think my writing advice would be to try to not doubt yourself, even if you're getting feedback that doesn't feel super positive. That's kind of the point. I feel like with writing is a lot like, honestly, a lot like theater, where you're kind of in this bubble of one, but the bubble is made out of people telling you you're doing it wrong. Be your own cheerleader and your own champion. If you want to write, it's because you're a good writer, right? You know what you want to do. Take the naysayers as ammunition to better yourself. Listen to them, and especially if they're trusted, but like know that there's a reason why you want this, and it's because you're good, right? And just don't lose sight of that. I think with lots of creative fields, you're surrounded by people that are like, I could do that better. I could, this isn't good enough, but you are. Not to be like kumbaya self-help, but like you are.
No, I feel like that's such good advice because one of the things that I try to say, and it's advice that kind of floats around on the internet, especially for like authors or writers or creatives in general, right? Is no one can tell the story the way that you can. So sure, there's this idea that there are no original ideas at this point, but you have yet to tell your story. And I feel like you have to live in that where it's just like when you're in a room with creatives, I promise you, everyone's going to think that they are more creative or can do that thing in a different way. And like I said, take it and put it in their lane, right? This is how I would have done it. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to go into that same room and be like, okay, this is how I do it. This is how I have done it. This is how I will do it. And you have to be able to stand 10 toes down with other creatives. And I feel like once you can do that and you can be like, no, I did this the way that I did it for a reason. And sure, this person could take the same idea and turn it into something completely different. And it could be amazing. But the way I've done it is also really amazing. And I think it's really important just in general. And this is just my 2 cents, spend it how you like. But I think it's really important to remember that you're not in competition with other creatives. There's enough room for everyone to exist. You just have to know that and send 10 toes down and like your creativity and your path and your journey and where you're going, because where they're going isn't necessarily where you're going, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But trying to hold someone else back so that you can get ahead is not the move.
Not the move. No. I mean, unless your goal is to be like a TikTok drama person, like people that just go tit for tat, then I guess that's the niche. But otherwise, be kind. And other creators can really help you. I mean, it was another creator who got me on TikTok, right? I mean, my relationship
Mhm.
with other creators is invaluable, in terms of
Absolutely.
helping each other.
Second that, because doing this podcast and just interacting with people generally online and being able to hear so many different people's perspectives and how they navigate all different types of publishing, indie publishing, self-publishing, traditional publishing, audiobook, and TikToks and blogs and everything else. It's just like you never know when you're building a bridge, and it doesn't make sense to go around burning them just because you don't like where somebody else is going on the other side. That's like crazy. But
Yeah.
I digress. Y'all know I can sit here and talk and ramble. So I'm not going to do that. But I am going to go ahead and close this out. So, Claire, if you could let the people know where to find you on the interwebs, I will take us
Oh,
out.
yes. You can follow me on TikTok, Clarabelle CWB. And then you can follow me on Instagram, Clarabelle Talks, TOKS. I also started a Threads page if you want to see me be a menace on Threads to the incels of Threads. They really hate to see me coming. You can also just follow me on Threads. Who knew that that was like a platform that people could use? But it is. And that's also Clarabelle Talks. And it's all satirical, what I do on there as well,
So,
sometimes.
so you guys know that there will be links in the description box or show notes of wherever you are listening to this at. And that is it for this episode of the Written in Melanin podcast, you guys. If you'd like to support this podcast, then please share it with someone you think may enjoy it. Join the Patreon at patreon.com/written in melanin. Grab a copy of my books from my website, cmlockhart.com, or donate to the podcast so that we can continue making good content for you guys. There are links in the show notes/description box for everything. And thank you guys again so much for listening. Until next time, I hope all your books are full of melanin.